I mean, the biggest one is one that you just touched on, which is the business engagement. I mean, previously, I would suggest, and I'm CTO for a number of single family offices, I would suggest like, hey, why don't we look at DocuSign, or why don't we look at, expense and billing solutions where the bill is scanned in and automatically gets parsed and fed into your general ledger. Or why don't we look at, Teams or chat or Zoom or these things. And it was very much driven by me pushing. And now it's completely flipped. It's being pulled. How do we do this? How do we do, what's this OCR? How do I scan bills? How do I, have workflow? How do I manage my workload? What kind of software is out there for managing tasks and so forth? And so now we see so much more business engagement. I do think that people used to go, gosh, there's so much software to learn. I can't really learn it all. Change management, training. How am I going to teach everybody how to use all this stuff? And I've always said, it's not quite as hard as you think, but everybody goes, well, yeah, you've been in the business for 30 years. It's easy for you to learn. You're a programmer, right? And yes, that's true, but now software is much more approachable. And people have learned with COVID-19 that they can actually pick up stuff without having a formal training program. They can kind of get in, and stuff is much more intuitive than it used to be. And so I think, part of the business engagement, it was driven because they had to quickly not be able to be in their offices, and everybody had to quickly deal with the distributed nature of the office. But in doing that, I think they all learned that the training of some of these systems, these smaller tech, micro techs, right? I mean, yes, your general ledger is very complicated. It may take some training, or learning your portfolio accounting system may take some time. But these micro tech solutions of a task management system, a team system, a DocuSign system, et cetera, are insanely valuable and much easier to learn. So I think, the micro tech, the smaller platforms, people are now giving themselves the benefit of the doubt that they actually could learn it. And I think that's partly, why the family portal. I mean, yes, the family has always been distributed, but they figured they'd see their person or get sent the document. And now they're going, gosh, I can't just, drop off my bills to pay or whatever. And I do want to be able to get in and see what's going on. And so I think it's a great example of nobody ever thought the family cared or wanted to get in. That's what they were there for, right? Is the service and the interface and knowing what their families wanted to see at the time they saw it. But now that's kind of shifted. It's clearly shown that 70, 80-year-olds can get on, and yeah, they might just do their 3 things, but it's much more intuitive, much more friendly, much less intimidating. And part of that, did come with the advent of apps on the phone, but certainly COVID sped that way up to be much more driven by the family and by the business, where training is much less intimidating, and they're seeing value in these micro tech solutions.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're realizing, like you said, and I said earlier, it's not quite as, maybe the general ledger and some accounting things, I agree, that could get more complex. But they often had one person in the family office that was doing a lot of the things we're talking about. And then what happens with COVID? Suppose we have one family office in California, effectively kind of the office manager / techie got COVID very early on and hasn't come back since then. And they held a lot of the keys to the kingdom. And that was very frustrating for this family office. They didn't have policy and procedures. They didn't have standard operating procedures, which I'm a big fan of some tasks that are not overly technical. Other people could step up. But if other people weren't trained or don't have a manual or something online in the cloud that they could follow, it becomes difficult. And they had to piece all of that together. Family offices should have been using Slack, getting more familiar with Teams, which is a great service, and even something basic like Trello on project management and tracking results for people that are diverse, meaning diverse locations, are incredibly important and not complex at all. You just have to put yourself out there and start to do them. Bill, maybe from your perspective, the importance of keeping the dialogue open and transparency in many forms, a family portal or hub, I mean, this is like a no-brainer now, especially as we're seeing families be, again, dispersed in terms of their location and family offices too.
Right, absolutely. And over my career, I've physically met hundreds of family offices like you, Angelo and Tania. And you really learn a lot about what works, the dynamics and everything. And it's the last 15 months has just been incredible. What was in so many aspects is no longer. Many a meeting I've gone to, well, we don't need a portal because all our family members expect face-to-face meetings. Getting the family office professionals would take a flight to Des Moines, Boise, all these glamour places around the country, and had to meet these family members and go over their statements. Face-to-face meetings, no more. Rarely did you even have the concept of remote working for family office professionals. It was always come to the office because you knew a patriarch, a matriarch, a family member might stop in and you need to address the issues they have. There's also historically been a concern for accessing my personal information via devices, smartphone, tablets, laptops, which is really interesting because on certain social media aspects, they're willing to share all sorts of things, but it's the financial information that they want to keep very private and secure. And that's why they think of it as in paper. And then the fear of outsourcing. Many family offices just felt we have to control everything in-house. And the last year, 15 months or so has really broken down those walls. And that transparency comment you made, Angelo, is just of critical importance. There's so much that they need to get access to: statements, performance returns, tax returns, cash flow statements, estate plans. But we all know there's so much more going on with families, their family properties, the family planes. Many of them have family operating businesses. You're still dealing with governance, succession, education. Those day-to-day requirements haven't changed. It's the execution that has changed. It's the methodology that has changed. And there is ever increasing importance of keeping the dialogue open. Transparency is so critical important. Prior to 2020, took many forms: manual copies, FedEx packages, US mail, email, and even email, people didn't realize potentially the risks that were involved with it, because how many wealthy people just use Gmail, which in my estimation is not really secure at all. But since there's been a greater urgency for information that is needed now, and I want to be kept current. In many forms, family offices have transitioned to, as you mentioned, a family hub or portal. Those that put in place a structure prior to 2020, they had an incredibly easier transition because they already had that structure in place. We have seen family portal usage has skyrocketed and become just a critical component, like a general ledger, like the performance, like data aggregation, a critical component of the single family office service platforms. Benefits are many: anywhere, anytime access, immediate access, getting approvals to trust distributions or invoices that need to be paid, making sure I can easily find information. I might want information late at night and I don't want to scour all the email statements I've gotten. So now I can just go to the family portal. Access to non-financial information is of critical importance. Who's staying at the family's lake house in June? And I think it's important to not underestimate how this kind of enhancement to communication adds to the value of the family office itself. So they see, look at what they're doing to keep me informed and updated on family matters. You can successfully navigate the challenges of the past year and do so in a secure way, and do so in a way that makes it engaging, and that notion Tania had of intuitiveness, of making it easy to do it. It is possible to do that. And